The Imperial inspector sneered as he surveyed Earth's defensive fleet, a collection of vessels that appeared primitive by galactic standards. "How quaint," remarked Officer Dula, his scaled fingers tapping against his datavat. "Your species continues to disappoint, human." Admiral Park nodded respectfully, betraying nothing. "We are a simple people, merely grateful for the Empire's protection." Later that night, Park's shuttle departed Earth, ostensibly for a routine inspection of lunar facilities. Instead, it veered toward the outer solar system, where, nestled within an asteroid field, the TSS Thunderchild waited, Earth's secret supercarrier, the culmination of decades of covert technological development. "Status report," Park commanded as she entered the bridge. Engineer Kim looked up from his console. "Final systems check complete. Admiral, the quantum drive is functioning at optimal capacity." Park nodded grimly. "The Empire plans to relocate millions of our people to their mining colonies. It's time." Admiral Park stood at the viewport, watching as the Imperial vessel departed Earth's orbit. Her face showed nothing, but inside, she felt both relief and tension. Another inspection complete. Another deception successful. "Admiral, your shuttle is ready," said her aide. Park glanced at the dossier on her desk. The Imperial report would show Earth as a compliant, technologically stunted world. Perfect. 3 hours later, her shuttle approached what looked like a typical asteroid cluster in the outer solar system. To Imperial scanners, it would appear as nothing more than space debris. To the right eyes, it was humanity's greatest achievement and best-kept secret. Authorization Park Delta 7. She spoke into the communication system. The seemingly solid face of a large asteroid shimmered and dissolved, revealing a massive docking bay carved inside. Her shuttle slid smoothly into the hidden facility. When Park stepped onto the deck, Captain Ryu saluted sharply. "Welcome back, Admiral." "Walk with me," Park said, moving with purpose through the bustling corridor. The inspection went as expected. "Yes, Admiral. The Empire suspects nothing. They saw exactly what we wanted them to see." For 20 years, humanity had played a careful game. To the Galactic Empire, Earth appeared to be a minor, compliant world with limited technology. In reality, Earth's best scientists worked in secret, developing technologies the Empire thought impossible. They entered a vast chamber that opened to reveal the TSS Thunderchild. The supercarrier stretched nearly 2 kilometers in length, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Unlike the bulky Imperial vessels with their visible engines and weapon systems, the Thunderchild was sleek, with few external features. "Beautiful, isn't she?" said Ryu. Park nodded. "And deadly. The Empire has no idea what's coming." They took a gravity lift to the bridge, where dozens of officers worked at stations far more advanced than anything the Empire had seen from humans. Engineer Kim approached, his tablet displaying complex equations. "Admiral, quantum drive tests are complete. We've achieved 300% efficiency over Imperial standard drives. The gravity weapons, fully operational. We can disrupt Imperial navigation systems at a range of 5 light minutes." Park moved to the central command station and placed her palm on the authentication panel. The main display activated, showing the positions of Imperial fleets throughout the solar system and beyond. Captain Ryu gathered the senior staff. "I have news from Earth Command." 30 minutes later, Park stood before her officers in the briefing room. The faces looking back at her represented Earth's finest, men and women who had dedicated their lives to ensuring humanity's freedom. "Yesterday, I received confirmation of what we've long suspected," Park began. "The Empire has designated Earth as a resource world. They plan to relocate 60% of our population to mining colonies in the Arcturus sector." Murmurs filled the room. Everyone knew what that meant. Imperial mining colonies were death sentences, places where lesser species worked until they died. "When?" asked Captain Ryu. 3 days. An Imperial transport fleet is already en route." Chief Tactical Officer Sun shook his head. We're not ready. The Thunderchild is operational, but the other carriers won't be complete for months. We don't have months, Park said firmly. We have the Thunderchild. She'll have to be enough. Engineer Kim cleared his throat. Admiral, the quantum drive is stable, but we haven't tested it in combat conditions. And the gravity manipulation system is still experimental. Then we'll experiment on Imperial ships, Park replied with a cold smile. The room fell silent as the reality of what was about to happen sank in. For decades, humanity had hidden its true capabilities, pretending to be weak while preparing for this moment. Communication Officer Kang, send the alert to our sleeper agents throughout the system. All hidden facilities are to initiate Directive Sunrise. Kang nodded. Yes, Admiral. Captain Ryu, prepare the Thunderchild for combat operations. I want all systems at full readiness in 12 hours. And the crew? Full complement. It's time to call everyone home. As the meeting dispersed, Park remained looking at the tactical display. Small dots represented Imperial ships. Confident, arrogant, believing they ruled unchallenged. They had no idea what humanity had built in secret. Later, Park walked alone through the ship's central corridor. Crews rushed past, preparing for the coming battle. She stopped at a viewport that looked out into the asteroid field hiding them. 20 years, she whispered to herself. For 20 years, since the Empire first arrived and claimed Earth as just another territory in their vast domain, humanity had played weak. They had bowed their heads and said, "Yes, Master," while secretly preparing for this day. The door hissed open behind her. Chief Medical Officer Jang entered, concern on his face. "You should rest, Admiral. The next few days will demand everything from you." Park shook her head. "I'll rest when Earth is free." "You've carried this burden a long time," Jang said quietly. "We all have." Jang handed her a data chip. The final medical supplies were loaded. All personnel are combat ready. And the new neural interfaces, installed and functioning. Our pilots will have reaction times 3 times faster than Imperial helmsmen. Park nodded. Good. Alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. Park's communicator activated. "Admiral to the bridge immediately," came Captain Ryu's voice. When Park arrived, the tactical display showed a flurry of activity near Earth. "What happened?" she demanded. "Imperial ships have arrived early," Ryu explained. "Not the transport fleet. A combat group. 6 destroyers and a heavy cruiser." "Why?" Intelligence Officer Lee stepped forward. "Our sources indicate they detected unusual communications patterns. They suspect something." Park's eyes narrowed. "They're fishing, hoping to scare us into revealing something." "Should we delay?" asked Ryu. Park stared at the display, weighing options, calculating risks. Then she straightened her uniform. "No, we follow the plan, just sooner than expected. Prepare for combat launch. It's time to show the Empire what humanity is truly capable of." Throughout the hidden shipyard, lights brightened as the Thunderchild powered up its main systems. In its heart, the quantum drive began to hum, manipulating space itself in ways Imperial science thought impossible. On the bridge, Admiral Park took her command chair. "All stations report," she ordered. One by one, her officers confirmed readiness. Quantum drive active. Gravity systems online. Shields at maximum. Weapons hot. Park took a deep breath. 20 years of deception, of hiding their true strength, had led to this moment. Begin launch sequence. Today, humanity takes back its future. The asteroid field surrounding the shipyard seemed to shimmer as the Thunderchild's advanced cloaking system activated. Slowly, majestically, Earth's secret supercarrier emerged from hiding, ready to shock an empire that had underestimated humanity for the last time. 3 days later, Imperial transports entered Earth orbit, ready to begin human relocation. The small Earth Defense Fleet moved to intercept. "This is Captain Bake of Earth Defense. We respectfully request clarification of your intentions. Commander Dula's laughter echoed through the communication channel. Clarification. Your world belongs to the Empire. Prepare for. His words died as alarms blared across Imperial sensors. Something massive had appeared behind Jupiter's orbit. Impossible, whispered Dula as the Thunderchild emerged, dwarfing his command vessel. This is Admiral Park of the Terran sovereign ship Thunderchild, came the transmission. Your relocation plan is denied. The Imperial vessels opened fire, expecting quick victory. Instead, their weapons dissipated harmlessly against the Thunderchild's hull. Commander Dula stood frozen on the bridge of his flagship. The massive human vessel should not exist. All Imperial intelligence indicated humans were technologically primitive, barely able to maintain their small defense fleet. Sir, our weapons are having no effect, reported his weapons officer, voice trembling. Impossible, Dula repeated, scales along his neck flaring in distress. Increase power. Use all batteries. The Imperial ships fired again, energy weapons lancing across space toward the Thunderchild. The energy beams simply vanished before making contact with the hull. What are they using for shields? Demanded Dula. Nothing can absorb concentrated plasma like that. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Admiral Park watched the Imperial ships with cold satisfaction. 20 years of deception had led to this moment. Their increasing weapons power, reported Tactical Officer Sun. Still no effect on our absorption field. Let them tire themselves out, Park said. Status of their transport vessels. Holding position near Earth's moon. They appear to be waiting for the defense fleet to be neutralized before beginning population transfer. Park nodded. Open a channel to all Imperial vessels. The communications officer worked his console. Channel open. Admiral. Park stood tall. This is Admiral Park of the TSS Thunderchild. Your Empire has mistaken our patience for weakness. That ends today. Remove your ships from Earth space immediately. On his bridge, Commander Dula snarled at the humans' audacity. One ship, no matter how large, cannot stand against the might of the Empire, he replied. Surrender now, and perhaps the Emperor will show mercy to your people. Without warning, the Thunderchild disappeared from Imperial sensors, seeming to vanish completely. Find it, screamed Dula. Maximum sensor sweep. Sir, nothing is showing on. The officer's words cut off as the Thunderchild reappeared, now directly between the Imperial fleet and Earth. On Earth, millions watched their skies as the battle unfolded. For most humans, this was the first they learned of the Thunderchild's existence. Government broadcasts quickly explained what was happening, that humanity had built in secret, preparing for this day. In major cities, crowds gathered in plazas, watching giant screens. Many wept. Some cheered. All felt the same thing. Hope. Back in space, Commander Dula ordered his ships to surround the Thunderchild. Sir, it's massive, protested his second-in-command. Nearly 3 times the size of our largest vessel. Size means nothing, snapped Dula. Their weapon systems can't possibly match ours in power. Begin coordinated attack pattern. The Imperial vessels moved with practiced precision, forming a sphere around the Thunderchild. They fired simultaneously from all directions, certain their combined firepower would overwhelm any defenses. Inside the Thunderchild, Admiral Park remained calm. They're using attack pattern Trident, observed Captain Ryu. Standard Imperial tactic against larger vessels. Let's show them why standard tactics are useless against us, Park replied. Engineer Kim, activate the gravity bubble. Kim nodded, entering commands into his station. Gravity bubble expanding. Now. Outside, space itself seemed to ripple around the Thunderchild. The Imperial weapons fire curved away, missing completely. Then, to the horror of the Imperial commanders, their ships began to drift, as if caught in an invisible current. What's happening? Demanded Dula as his ship slid sideways despite engine power. Unknown, sir, cried his navigator. Our engines are at full power, but were being pulled toward the human vessel. The Thunderchild rotated slowly, untouched by Imperial weapons. Then small panels opened along its hull, revealing rows of what appeared to be simple apertures rather than weapon ports. "Target their engines," ordered Park. "Minimum power. We want them disabled, not destroyed." From the apertures came not energy beams or missiles, but barely visible distortions in space. Where these distortions touched Imperial ships, systems failed. Engines died. Weapons powered down. In minutes, the Imperial fleet floated helpless, their vessels dark except for emergency lighting. What did they do to us?" whispered Dula's second-in-command. Dula had no answer. Nothing in Imperial science could explain what he had just witnessed. His communication system crackled to life. "Commander Dula," came Admiral Park's voice. "Your vessels are temporarily disabled. We have done nothing permanent to your ships or crews. Consider this a demonstration." In the silent darkness of his bridge, Dula hissed with rage. "When the Emperor hears of this—" "The Emperor will hear of this," Park interrupted. "In fact, I'm broadcasting this encounter across all Imperial frequencies. Every world in your empire is witnessing humanity's true power. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, beings of all species watched in stunned silence as a supposedly primitive race humbled an Imperial fleet without firing a single destructive shot. Aboard the Imperial transports near Earth's moon, the relocation commander made a quick decision. All vessels, prepare to withdraw. We cannot complete our mission under these conditions." Back on the Thunderchild, Park received the news with a nod. "The transports are retreating," reported Communications Officer Kang. "They're calculating jump coordinates away from Earth." "Let them go," said Park. "They'll carry the message better than we could." She turned to Captain Ryu. "Prepare a small team to board Commander Dula's vessel. I want to speak with him directly." 30 minutes later, Park stood on the darkened bridge of the Imperial flagship. Emergency lights cast an eerie glow across the alien faces staring at her with a mixture of fear and hatred. Commander Dula remained in his command chair, refusing to stand in the human's presence. "You realize this is an act of war," he said coldly. Park smiled. "No, Commander. This is an act of independence. There's a difference." She walked around the bridge, examining the Imperial technology with open curiosity. "For decades, your empire has treated Earth as a backwater world, barely worth your attention. That was your mistake." She stopped before Dula. "We used your arrogance against you. What you saw what you expected to see. A primitive species. We built something you thought impossible." "The empire spans 1,000 worlds," growled Dula. "You cannot hope to stand against it." "We don't need to," Park replied. "We only need to make the cost of subjugating us too high to be worth your effort." She nodded to her security team, who placed a small device on the main console. "This will restore your systems in 1 hour, enough time for us to return to our vessel. When you report to your superiors, tell them this: Earth is now a sovereign world. We will defend our independence with technology your empire can't match." As Park turned to leave, Dula called after her. "Where did you get this technology? It's impossible that humans developed it independently." Park paused at the door. "That's your empire thinking, Commander. Always believing that lesser species must be copying their betters. The truth is simpler. We built it ourselves because we had to." As the human delegation departed, Dula stared at the viewport where the massive Thunderchild hovered, defying everything he thought he knew about the galaxy's power structure. 1 hour later, as promised, the Imperial systems came back online. Dula immediately opened a secure channel to Imperial High Command. "This is Commander Dula requesting emergency audience with the Supreme Military Council," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "The humans have deceived us. They have technology we've never seen before. And I fear this is only the beginning." Across the stars, the news spread faster than any Imperial censor could contain it. Humanity had stood up to the Empire. and 1. The Thunderchild moved without conventional thrust, appearing to slide through space in defiance of physics. "How are they doing this?" demanded the Imperial tactical officer as the human vessel outmaneuvered ships half its size. When the Imperial reinforcements arrived, the Thunderchild unveiled its primary weapon. Space itself seemed to ripple outward from the carrier, and suddenly Imperial ships found themselves drifting powerless, caught in localized gravity distortions. Admiral Park's voice transmitted across all frequencies. "For too long, humanity has been considered insignificant. Today, that perception ends." Across the galaxy, news spread of a human vessel that had neutralized an Imperial fleet without destroying a single ship. Grand Admiral Nam of the Imperial 8th Fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system with 20 warships. His orders were clear: neutralize the human supercarrier and restore Imperial authority over Earth. "Display tactical overview," Nam ordered as he strode onto the bridge of his flagship. A three-dimensional map appeared, showing the human vessel holding position near Earth's moon. The disabled Imperial ships from Commander Dula's fleet drifted nearby, their systems slowly coming back online. "Magnify the human vessel," Nam said. The image zoomed in on the Thunderchild. Unlike Imperial ships with their visible engine arrays and weapon emplacements, the human vessel was sleek, with few external features. "Scan it," ordered Nam. His science officer worked at her console, then frowned. "Sir, our scans can't penetrate their hull. And there's something strange about their propulsion." "Explain." "There are no engine emissions, no radiation signature. Nothing we can detect that explains how it moves." Nam studied the image with narrowed eyes. "What about weapons?" "None that match Imperial classification. Those apertures along the hull emit some kind of spatial distortion, but our sensors can't identify the technology." Nam had fought in a dozen campaigns across the galaxy. He had never faced anything like this. "Open a channel to Commander Dula." Dula's face appeared on screen, his scales pale with stress. "Report," ordered Nam. "Grand Admiral, the human vessel possesses technology unlike anything in Imperial records. Their defensive systems absorbed our weapons' fire completely, and their offensive capabilities." Dula hesitated. "They disabled our entire fleet without causing structural damage." "Impossible," said Nam. "I witnessed it, sir. They manipulate gravity somehow, created localized distortions that affected our systems but not our hulls." Nam's tactical officer leaned close. "Sir, the human vessel is moving." On the display, the Thunderchild began to change position. It didn't accelerate like normal ships. Instead, it seemed to slide through space as if friction didn't exist. "Full sensor focus," ordered Nam. "I want to understand how they're moving." Inside the Thunderchild, Admiral Park watched the Imperial reinforcements on her tactical display. "They brought 20 ships this time," noted Captain Ryu. Park nodded. "They still don't understand what they're facing." "Should we engage?" asked Tactical Officer Sun. "Not yet. Let's show them a bit more of what we can do." Park turned to Engineer Kim. "Status of the quantum drive." "Operating at full capacity, Admiral. Space folding capabilities ready." "Good. Plot a course through their formation. Let's show them true maneuverability." On the Imperial flagship, alarms suddenly blared. "The human vessel is accelerating," reported the tactical officer. "Speed, impossible. It's moving at 50% light speed with no acceleration curve." Nam watched in disbelief as the Thunderchild disappeared from its position near Earth's moon and reappeared instantly at the edge of his formation. "That's not possible," he whispered. "Nothing can move that fast without acceleration." His science officer's voice shook. "Sir, they're not using conventional propulsion. Sensors indicate they're somehow folding space around them." "What does that mean?" Nam demanded. "It means they don't move through space. They move space itself." The Thunderchild continued its demonstration, disappearing and reappearing at different points around the Imperial fleet. It moved with impossible precision, sometimes appearing just meters from Imperial ships before vanishing again. Nam's communications officer interrupted. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." Admiral Park's face appeared on screen, calm and confident. "Grand Admiral Nam, I presume. I am Admiral Park of the Terran sovereign ship Thunderchild. I trust our demonstration has your attention." Nam straightened his uniform. "Admiral Park, your actions constitute rebellion against the rightful authority of the Galactic Empire. Surrender your vessel immediately." Park smiled slightly. "I don't think you understand the situation. Admiral, allow me to clarify." The transmission cut off. Suddenly, the Thunderchild appeared directly in front of Nam's flagship, close enough that he could see details of its hull through the viewport. "Fire all weapons," Nam ordered. The Imperial flagship unleashed its full arsenal. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human vessel. But before they could impact, something strange happened. The weapons fire seemed to curve around the Thunderchild, as if space itself was bending. "What's happening?" Nam demanded. His science officer worked frantically at her console. "They're creating some kind of gravity lens around their ship. Our weapons are following the curvature of space-time they've generated." On the Thunderchild, Engineer Kim reported, "Their weapons are being redirected successfully, Admiral. No impact on our systems." Park nodded. "Now let's show them our primary defense system." Kim entered commands into his console. Gravity bubble expanding. From the Imperial flagship, Nam watched as space visibly distorted around the human vessel. A ripple seemed to expand outward, like a stone dropped in water. When the ripple reached his ships, systems began to fail. Weapons went offline. Engines died. Communications crackled with static. "Emergency power," ordered Nam, but it was too late. Throughout his fleet, gravity itself seemed to fluctuate. Ships drifted out of formation, unable to maintain position. The Thunderchild moved among them like a predator among helpless prey. It came alongside Nam's flagship, dwarfing the Imperial vessel. Admiral Park's voice came through the weakened communication system. "For too long, humanity has been considered insignificant. Today, that perception ends." In the Imperial capital, the Emperor himself watched the transmitted images with growing fury. His military council sat in stunned silence as they witnessed the most powerful fleet in the sector rendered helpless by a single human vessel. "How is this possible?" demanded the Emperor. "How could they have developed such technology in secret?" The Imperial chief scientist cleared his throat nervously. "Your Majesty, what we're seeing shouldn't be possible according to our understanding of physics. They appear to have mastered gravity manipulation and space-folding technology. Could they have stolen this from another species?" "No, Your Majesty. No known species in the galaxy has demonstrated these capabilities. The humans have developed something entirely new." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "And they kept it hidden from us. For how long, I wonder?" Back in Earth's solar system, Grand Admiral Nam faced the humiliation of defeat without firing an effective shot. Admiral Park's face appeared again on his screen. "Your ships will regain full functionality within 2 hours, Grand Admiral. When they do, I suggest you leave Earth space. The age of Imperial dominance over humanity is over." "The Empire spans 1,000 worlds," Nam replied stiffly. "We will return with a force you cannot resist." Park's expression didn't change. "You still don't understand. We don't need to fight your entire empire. We just needed to show them that subjugating Earth would cost more than it's worth." She leaned forward slightly. "And consider this. If one human vessel can neutralize your fleet, what do you think would happen if we shared our technology with other worlds under Imperial rule?" The implication was clear, and Nam felt a chill. If other subject species gained this technology, the Empire could face rebellion on hundreds of worlds simultaneously. "You threaten the stability of the galaxy," he said. "No, Grand Admiral. We offer an alternative to Imperial rule. One based on cooperation rather than domination." As promised, 2 hours later, the Imperial ships regained full functionality. Grand Admiral Nam ordered an immediate withdrawal from the solar system. His final report to Imperial High Command was brief. The human vessel employs technology beyond current Imperial understanding. Continued military action against Earth is not recommended until we can develop countermeasures. Across the galaxy, the news spread rapidly. Imperial censors tried to contain it, but too many had witnessed the transmission. On hundreds of worlds, subject species whispered about the humans who had stood against the Empire and won. In hidden laboratories and secret meetings, the question was always the same. If humans could do it, why not us? And on Earth, Admiral Park stood on the Thunderchild's observation deck, watching stars that no longer represented threats but possibilities. "What comes next?" asked Captain Ryu, joining her. Park smiled. "Next, we help others find their freedom. The galaxy deserves better than Empire." Grand Admiral Choi of the Imperial Elite Fleet reviewed the battle footage with growing concern. "These humans have mastered quantum-entangled propulsion and gravity manipulation," his science officer explained. "Technologies our best minds considered theoretical." Meanwhile, Earth revealed 3 more carriers: the Defiance, the Sovereignty, and the Freedom, each emerging from hidden construction facilities throughout the solar system. On distant worlds, subjugated species watched with growing hope as broadcast footage showed Imperial vessels retreating from Earth space. Diplomat Lee moved quietly between these worlds, forming alliances. "The Empire is not invincible," she whispered to representatives of the Krith, the Valen, and a dozen other species. "Join us." Grand Admiral Choi sat alone in his private chamber aboard the Imperial command ship Dominion. The battle footage played again on his screen. The human supercarrier Thunderchild effortlessly neutralizing an entire Imperial fleet. Choi had served the Empire for 40 years. He had conquered 12 worlds and crushed 15 rebellions. Never had he seen anything like this. A soft chime announced a visitor. His door slid open to reveal Science Director Quan. "You've analyzed the data?" Choi asked. Quan nodded, his expression grim. "The humans have achieved what our scientists thought impossible." He placed a data tablet on Choi's desk. "They've created technology that manipulates the fundamental forces of the universe." Choi studied the analysis. "How did we miss this? Our intelligence reported they were primitive." "They fooled us," Quan said simply. "For decades, they showed us exactly what we expected to see: a compliant, technologically inferior species. Meanwhile, they built this." The screen showed the Thunderchild moving without conventional thrust, bending space itself to travel. "Can we replicate it?" Choi asked. Quan hesitated. "Not quickly. Their quantum-entangled propulsion operates on principles our scientists have only theorized, and their gravity manipulation technology is beyond our current understanding." "You're saying they're more advanced than the Empire?" "In these specific technologies, yes. They focus their research in directions we dismissed as impractical." Choi's communicator beeped. "Admiral, urgent transmission from Earth sector." The screen changed to show live footage. 3 massive vessels, each similar to the Thunderchild, but with distinct designs, emerged from hidden facilities in Earth's asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons, and beneath Venus's cloud cover. "By the Emperor," whispered Quan. The vessels moved into formation around Earth, a display of power that sent a clear message to the watching galaxy. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor himself watched the same footage, his scaled face unreadable. "4 carriers," he said quietly. "They built 4 supercarriers under our very gaze." The Imperial War Council shifted uncomfortably. None wanted to speak first. "How?" the Emperor finally asked. "How did a minor world accomplish this deception?" Minister Ta cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, it appears the humans identified weaknesses in our monitoring systems. They built their facilities in locations we considered too hostile for advanced construction." "And the technology?" Imperial Science Coordinator Jun stepped forward. Initial analysis suggests they pursued research directions our scientists abandoned centuries ago. We deemed quantum entanglement too unstable for propulsion systems. The humans found a way to stabilize it. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. The cost to subjugate them now. Fleet Admiral Boz spoke carefully. With these vessels protecting Earth, conventional military action would result in unacceptable losses. Unacceptable losses, repeated the Emperor. You mean defeat? No one contradicted him. Across the galaxy, on worlds ruled by imperial decree, subject species gathered in secret to watch the forbidden transmissions from Earth. In hidden rooms and underground meeting places, they'd witnessed something thought impossible. Imperial ships retreating before a former subject world. On Valen Prime, a world of floating cities whose inhabitants had served the Empire for 3 centuries, Diplomat Lee sat across from Counselor Vrek. They met in a private garden dome, away from Imperial monitoring. We've watched the footage, Vrek said, his translucent wings folding nervously. Is it real? Lee nodded. Earth stands free. The Empire has withdrawn its forces from our system. How? The Empire never retreats. They had no choice. Lee activated a small holographic projector. It displayed technical schematics. This is what Earth developed in secret, technology the Empire cannot counter. Vrek studied the schematics with wide eyes. And you would share this with us. Earth seeks allies, not subjects, Lee said. We propose a new relationship between worlds, one based on mutual respect and cooperation. Vrek's wings fluttered in the Valen expression of hope. The Empire would never allow this. The Empire can no longer stop it. Similar conversations took place on a dozen worlds. On Krith, whose crystalline inhabitants had mined resources for the Empire for generations, Lee met with the Facet Council. Your carriers are impressive, said Elder Crystalmrek, her facets glinting in the dim light. But the Empire will return with greater numbers. Numbers won't matter, Lee explained. Our technology changes the nature of space combat. Quality now defeats quantity. And you offer us this technology freely. Not freely, Lee clarified. In exchange for alliance. Earth cannot stand alone forever. We need partners. The elder crystals communed silently for a moment, their facets pulsing with light. The risk is great, Mrek finally said. Greater than continued servitude? Lee asked. No answer was needed. Back in the Earth system, Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Thunderchild, watching as the Defiance, Sovereignty, and Freedom took up defensive positions. Status report, she commanded. All carriers at full operational capacity, reported Captain Ryu. Defense grid active throughout the system. Park nodded. And our diplomatic initiatives. Communications Officer Kang consulted his display. Diplomat Lee reports positive discussions with 7 species. The Valen and Krith are closest to commitment. The Empire won't remain passive for long, Park said. They're gathering their forces. Let them come, said Tactical Officer Sun. 4 carriers can hold off anything they send. Park shook her head. We don't want a prolonged conflict. We want to change the calculation, make Earth too costly to reclaim. In Imperial space, Grand Admiral Choi received his orders directly from the Emperor. You will take the Grand Fleet to Earth, the Emperor said, his image towering on the communication screen. You will destroy these human carriers and make an example of their world. Choi bowed. As you command, Your Majesty. When the transmission ended, Science Director Quan spoke quietly. 150 ships against 4 carriers. Will it be enough? Choi studied the tactical projections. If they were conventional vessels, yes. But these human ships, they don't fight conventionally. The Emperor expects victory. The Emperor doesn't understand what we're facing, Choi said. These humans have changed warfare itself. As the Grand Fleet assembled, Imperial intelligence detected unusual activity throughout the subject worlds. Secret meetings, unauthorized technology transfers. movements of resources that couldn't be explained. On her third diplomatic mission, Lee arrived on Terranth, a desert world whose reptilian inhabitants provided soldiers for imperial armies. Warlord Skaz greeted her in his underground fortress. "We've been waiting for this day for generations," he said, showing sharp teeth. "The day someone challenged the Empire." "Not just challenged," Lee corrected. "Defeated." Skaz gestured to the battle footage playing on a nearby screen. "Your carriers are impressive, but technology alone doesn't win wars." "We know." Lee smiled. "That's why I'm here. Earth needs allies who understand warfare." "And what do the Terranth receive in return?" "Freedom, technology, and a seat at the table when we rebuild the galaxy." Skaz's forked tongue flicked out, tasting the air around her. "You speak with conviction, human. But understand this, if your carriers fail against the Grand Fleet, all who ally with you will suffer." "That's why they won't fail," Lee said. "Even now, Earth prepares for the Empire's response." In Earth's orbit, the four carriers formed a defensive pattern, their gravity fields interlocking to create an impenetrable barrier around the planet. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Admiral Park received the reports from across the galaxy. "The Grand Fleet has mobilized," Captain Rio informed her. 150 vessels, including 3 Imperial dreadnoughts. Park nodded calmly. "As expected. And our allies? The Valen have committed. The Krith are still deliberating. The Terranth await proof of our strength. They'll have it soon enough," Park said. "The Empire comes to teach us a lesson. Instead, we'll teach them one." She looked out at Earth below, peaceful and blue. For generations, humanity had bowed to imperial rule, hiding their true potential. That time was over. "Prepare all carriers for combat operations," Park ordered. "The Imperial Grand Fleet approaches. And with it, the future of the galaxy." The final confrontation came near Jupiter. Earth's carrier group faced the Imperial elite fleet. "Surrender your vessels, and we may show mercy," Grand Admiral Choi transmitted. Admiral Park's reply was simple: "No." What followed wasn't really a battle but a demonstration. The human carriers created overlapping fields of manipulated spacetime, trapping Imperial vessels in bubbles where physics itself seemed rewritten. 2 days later, the Galactic Emperor's own envoy arrived at Earth to sign a treaty recognizing human sovereignty. As the Imperial ships departed the solar system, Admiral Park stood on the Thunderchild's observation deck. "What now?" asked Captain Han, joining her. Park watched Earth rotating peacefully below. "Now we help others find their freedom," she said. "The galaxy deserves better than empire." Across the stars, hope flickered to life. The Grand Imperial Fleet emerged from hyperspace near Jupiter, a wall of metal and energy that had conquered 100 worlds. 150 vessels arranged in perfect formation, their weapons primed, their crews ready for battle. At their center, the flagship Eternal Dominion carried Grand Admiral Choi. He stood on his bridge, studying the tactical display with cold calculation. "Status of human vessels," he ordered. 4 carriers in defensive formation near Jupiter's moon Europa, reported his tactical officer. "No support craft visible." Choi nodded. 4 vessels against 150. By any conventional measure, this would be a swift victory. But nothing about these human ships was conventional. "Open communications," Choi ordered. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Park on the bridge of the Thunderchild. She looked calm, almost serene. "Admiral Park," Choi began formally. "I am Grand Admiral Choi of the Imperial Elite Fleet. The Emperor has declared your actions an act of rebellion against the rightful authority of the Empire. Surrender your vessels, and we may show mercy." Park's face showed no fear, no hesitation. Her reply was simple: "No." Choi's scales flushed with anger. "You face the full might of the Imperial Fleet. You cannot hope to prevail." "Your understanding of might is outdated, Admiral," Park replied. "Perhaps a demonstration is in order." The communication ended. Choi turned to his tactical officer. Advance the fleet. All weapons free. The Imperial Armada moved forward, energy weapons charging, missile bays opening. The 4 human carriers remained motionless near Europa, seemingly passive. They're not moving to intercept, noted Choi's second-in-command. Overconfidence, Choi replied. It will be their downfall. When the fleet reached optimal firing range, Choi gave the order. All ships, open fire. 150 vessels unleashed their weapons simultaneously. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human carriers. It should have been enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Before the barrage could reach its targets, space itself seemed to ripple between the fleets. The weapons fire slowed, curved, and finally stopped, suspended in space like insects in amber. What's happening? Demanded Choi. His science officer worked frantically at her console. The carriers are generating some kind of overlapping space-time distortion field. They're altering the physical laws within that space. On the tactical display, Choi watched as the frozen energy weapons slowly dissipated, their power bleeding away into nothingness. Impossible, he whispered. Then the human carriers began to move, not toward the Imperial fleet, but in a complex pattern around it. As they moved, the space-time distortion expanded. Imperial ships at the edge of the formation suddenly found themselves unable to maneuver. Their engines functioned, but the vessels remained fixed in place, as if anchored to invisible points in space. We're being trapped, reported the tactical officer, panic edging into his voice. The effect is spreading through the formation. Choi opened a fleet-wide channel. All vessels, maximum thrust. Break formation. Escape the effect zone. But it was too late. The 4 human carriers had created a massive bubble of altered spacetime that encompassed the entire Imperial fleet. Within this bubble, Imperial technology functioned unpredictably or not at all. Communications between ships became garbled. Weapons systems fired at reduced power or misfired completely. Navigation computers showed impossible readings. Admiral, came a transmission from one of his captains. Our ship is experiencing variable gravity. Sections of the vessel are reporting weightlessness, while others report gravity at 3 times normal. Similar reports flooded in from across the fleet. This wasn't combat in any traditional sense. It was like being caught in a storm of physics gone wrong. On the Thunderchild, Admiral Park watched the Imperial fleet's confusion with grim satisfaction. They still don't understand, she said to Captain Ryu. They think in terms of weapons and shields, of force meeting force. And we think differently, Ryu replied. Park nodded. We learned long ago that you can't defeat the Empire by playing their game. So we changed the rules. The 4 carriers continued their complex dance around the Imperial fleet, maintaining the space-time bubble that rendered the most powerful armada in the galaxy helpless. Inside his flagship, Grand Admiral Choi faced the unthinkable, defeat without a single effective shot fired. Sir, said his communications officer, we're receiving a transmission from the Thunderchild. Admiral Park's face appeared again on screen. Grand Admiral, this demonstration can continue as long as necessary. Your fleet is immobilized. Your weapons are ineffective. You cannot harm Earth or its defenders. Choi's voice was tight with controlled fury. What do you want? Recognition of Earth's sovereignty, withdrawal of all Imperial forces from our system, and acknowledgement of our right to form alliances with other worlds. The Emperor will never agree. Park smiled slightly. The Emperor is practical. Admiral, the cost of continuing this conflict far outweighs any benefit. You know this. Choi did know. The Empire had conquered the galaxy through overwhelming force and ruthless efficiency. But against these human carriers, force meant nothing. And the longer this battle continued, the more the galaxy would see the Empire's powerlessness. I will relay your terms, he said stiffly. For 2 days, the Imperial fleet remained trapped in the space-time bubble, while Choi communicated with the Imperial capital. The footage of the immobilized fleet spread throughout the galaxy, watched by billions on countless worlds. On the morning of the third day, a single Imperial vessel arrived at the edge of the solar system. It was the Emperor's personal diplomatic ship, carrying his chief envoy. The space-time distortion dissipated, freeing the Imperial fleet, but they did not resume hostilities. Instead, they formed an honor guard as the diplomatic vessel approached Earth. In Earth's orbit, aboard the Thunderchild, Admiral Park welcomed the Imperial envoy. The treaty signing was brief but historic. The Empire formally recognized Earth's independence and its right to maintain its advanced fleet. More significantly, the treaty acknowledged Earth's right to form alliances with other worlds, a concession that would change the galaxy forever. As the Imperial ships prepared to depart the solar system, Admiral Park stood on the Thunderchild's observation deck. Through the viewport, she could see Earth below, blue and peaceful. Captain Han joined her, watching the last Imperial vessels disappear into hyperspace. "Is it really over?" he asked. "This part is," Park replied. "The Empire will honor the treaty, at least for now. They're practical enough to know when a fight isn't worth the cost." "And what comes next?" Park's gaze remained fixed on Earth. "Now we help others find their freedom," she said. "The galaxy deserves better than Empire." Han nodded. "The Valen, the Krith, the Turanth, they're already asking for our help, our technology. And we'll give it to them," Park said. "Not to build new empires, but to ensure no species ever dominates another again." In the weeks that followed, the 4 human carriers split up, each traveling to different sectors of the galaxy. The Thunderchild visited the Valen. The Defiance went to the Krith, the Sovereignty to the Turanth, and the Freedom to other worlds seeking alliance. They brought not just advanced technology, but a new vision. A galaxy of free, cooperative species, each contributing their unique strengths to a greater whole. On world after world, beings gathered to watch the human vessels arrive. They had seen the footage of the Imperial fleet rendered helpless. They had heard of Earth's treaty with the Empire. Now they witnessed human envoys stepping forth, offering not conquest, but partnership. In the Imperial capital, the Emperor sat alone in his private chamber. On his display, reports streamed in from across his domain. 12 worlds had already formed alliances with Earth. 30 more were in negotiations. Was there no other option? He asked his chief advisor. "No, Your Majesty," the advisor replied. "Their technology renders our military advantage obsolete, and their approach is unexpected. They seek not to conquer, but to liberate. And that makes them more dangerous than any conqueror," the Emperor said quietly. 6 months after the confrontation at Jupiter, representatives from 40 worlds gathered on Earth. They came from across the galaxy. Species that had never before met now sat together as equals. Admiral Park addressed them from a simple podium, her uniform free of the elaborate decorations Imperial officers favored. "For centuries, the galaxy has known only empire," she said. "One species dominating others through force. Today we begin something new. A coalition of free worlds, united by mutual respect and cooperation." She looked around at the assembled representatives, some humanoid, others utterly alien, all watching her with hope.